Hello, everybody! Thank you so much for your patience while we all set up over here. My name is Sean Chiplock. I also go online as Sonic Mega. I go by he, him. Thank you very much. And we are definitely strapped for time, so I'm going to move right along here. Welcome to the debut of my brand new panel, Hire Me, Please. This panel came about because I have been working as a professional voiceover artist for several years. And I've done a lot of panels for people who are interested in getting into voiceover, and one of the most common questions has been, how do I get into this industry? How did you get work with these new clients? How did you build your reputation with studios? And as I answered those questions, I started to learn that a lot of the answers I gave weren't specific to voice acting. They really could just be used for any career in general, whether you're a fursuit maker, whether you're a performer, a DJ, an artist, a voice actor. And so I really wanted to put together a panel that would encompass these qualities, which are each of the letters of Hire Me, that I felt successful people tend to exhibit. So this is Hire Me, a guide to successful and effective behaviors that anyone can follow, not just voice actors, presented by me, Sean Sonic Mega Chiplock, professional voice actor and shitpost connoisseur. Don't worry, I bleep myself so the staff doesn't have to. Who am I? Why am I worth listening to? Well, if you happen to listen to English dubs of stuff, you may have heard me in quite a few things. I have been the voice of Subaru Natsuki in, I almost said JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in ReZero, Guido Mista in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, Rain Schwarzer in Trails of Cold Steel, Mishima Yuki Persona 5, D-Luke in Genshin Impact. You guys can cheer and wave and do all your emotes because I gotta rush through this. I recently got to announce that I'm Kai Kiske in Guilty Gear Strive. That was epic. Nanu and Seabold and Pokemon Masters. I was Kiro and Mr. Love Queen's Choice for a while. Kiyotaka Ishimaru in Danganronpa, Shin, and of course, the role everyone here might recognize me as, the Great Deku Tree in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Give it up for the Wood Boy. Yeah, that's right. Oh, also these little two birds in the bottom, Rivali, Teba, people don't really know about them. I don't talk about them much. Anyway, moving on. A few important notes in advance. I want you guys to remember this is an advice panel. This is me giving guidance based on my own personal experiences and those that I admire, but it is general advice and anecdote experiences. This is not a promise or a guarantee of individual success if you follow it. Your path could be very different. Take inspiration from many different sources, find what works best for you or what you identify with, and mold your own path. We're gonna come up with a little phrase that I said later, which is, good actors borrow, great actors steal. It's about taking what you admire in others and adapting it into your own performance, at least for my career. Time is both powerful and unpredictable. The successful qualities shine through when you've been doing them for a long time. A long-term reputation will do much more for you than just a short-term action. Fast results are often unique and should not be deliberately expected. If you enjoy this panel, I am always down to get free fan art or fursuit hugs and cuddles once we show up to conventions. Please reach out to your local convention, ask them to require vaccinations. That's really the one thing holding me back. But I would love to go back to MFF, BLFC, FWA, FC, all the ones that you can name. And if you see me and you're like, hey, I really liked your panel, and you're in suit, give me a hug, I'll melt like butter, it'll be super awkward, fun for everybody. And lastly, Blue Wolves will always be in this fandom, just accept it. I can see at least 3 of you in the audience. It's eternal, just get used to it. Alright, so, what does Hire Me stand for? I racked my brain to think of the qualities that I think are universal, that people who are successful tend to exhibit on a consistent basis. And I came up with helpful, independent, responsible, exemplary, malleable, and empathic. And don't worry, we are going to go through each of these and what it means and doesn't mean. But in addition, I also took some time and I looked up a member of the community that I think really represents that particular quality. So we have Tax Badger for helpful, Tarty Cat for independent, Cinnamon Spots for responsible, and I'm not saying that they're only helpful or only independent, but that when I thought of that unique word, they are the person that came to mind. So if you come from this panel being like, hey, I want to find out ways to be more helpful, I want to be more responsible, I want to be more empathic, then I would consider following these people. These are all their Twitter handles. This is where you can find them on Twitter. And just observe them. Get to know them. Don't awkwardly say, hey, let's be best friends, but just use them as an inspiration for how you can improve yourself going forward. So let's start off with helpful. What does helpful mean? Well, in my experience, helpful people utilize the skills that they have to offer solutions. They use their experiences to assist and educate others. You know, when I think of people who come up to me and say, how do I do it? What's the first step to getting into voiceover? This is a case where I could be helpful. They provide resources for others to access. They don't gatekeep that information from others. I'm sure that there's plenty of you out there, at least one of you is an artist or a fursuit maker that has said, you know, hey, you know, here's the guide that I used when I work on this aspect of my suit. Or, you know, here's where I went to solve this problem that I had, in case it might help you as well. And they serve as a frame for reference. They act as the experienced person that those who are brand new can look up to so that they aren't as confused about where to go. This doesn't mean giving unsolicited advice. It doesn't mean reaching out and saying, you know, when someone's like, man, this is really tough for me, saying, oh, you should do this instead. Or in my case, if I were to go up to someone who, you know, is putting a project together and saying, you should add voiceover to this because that's going to make it sound better. Perhaps a more relevant case would be fixing or correcting. If they are not asking for critique, you probably should not be giving critique because, first of all, your fix may not be relevant, and your fix could also be wrong, and then you just look like an idiot. Don't push your services if they're not being requested. Like I said, you know, I know there's at least one person in this audience who is a developer who's working on a game, and I'm sure they get inundated with people saying, please listen to my demo, even though you never asked for it. I really want to be on your project. That is not a good idea. And don't insist on there being a right way to do things. Like I said, everyone's path is different. So how do we put this into practice? These are going to be pretty small on this projector. If you want, you can get up and move up just to get a closer look and screenshot it. Just please don't come onto the stage. I don't want your voice interrupting me. Tax Badger is a furry tax professional. He has made a name for himself within the last year by just being the tax professional who is a furry and who helps furries with the tax process. He publicly answers questions. He explains your tax filings. I actually switched to him this year because I wanted to try out and supporting someone that was from the community. And this dude was amazing. The in-depth, the amount of depth that he went to explain, you know, here's why you write off what you can write off. Did you make sure to account for this stuff? The amount of times that he will just spend time on Twitter answering for free what, you know, folks at other tax filing organizations may want a couple $100s for, has made him ridiculously valuable to the community. And I can tell you straight up that Tax Badger has acquired dozens of new clients this year, especially because of the pandemic, because of COVID, because of like all these new things that people had to keep an eye on. So they are absolutely helpful to the community, both to furries specifically and to those who are dealing with freelance taxes. Myself, how can I be helpful towards people in the voiceover industry? Often, I try to help connect indie projects, especially within the furry community, to voice actors. Again, I don't force myself upon it, but for example, when Kemono Mahjong, if any of you are familiar with that, Kemono Mahjong was coming into development, and I reached out and I said, hey, I don't know what you plan to do with this project, but if you are interested in adding voices, get in touch with me, and I would be more than happy to connect you to communities that can help get you a bunch of auditions. It so happened that they were like, hey, we would love voices because we want them to feel, you know, approachable. We want to give these characters personality. Please, if you have anything that you can do, let us know. And I did. I hooked them up with the voice acting club. I asked, you know, they sent auditions when they were ready to do it, and I actually ended up booking a gig in that. So by helping connect them, you know, it wasn't a guarantee that I'd get to take part, but I did get to end up voicing a couple characters, and I'm really glad that I could support them. Mentioned a couple times by now, you know, how do you get into X convention? That's pretty much how do you get into X industry? That's pretty much self-explanatory. A common thing, you'll see this later, is I think of the XKCD comic of the Lucky 10,000. Just because you know doesn't mean the person asking you knows. And this is your chance to kind of flex and like be the cool person, be the big older brother or sister or non-binary that introduces them and says, well, here's what I learned and that I can share with you. And then convention panels like this, you know, as I learn, as I find ways to give back to the community, I put together stuff like this and I get to interact with all of you. Yay! I'm going to take a swig of water because I'm smart and I hydrate. Excuse me. All right, where's my wonderful camera buddy? Oh, he's up there. Cool. Independent. What does being independent mean? Independent means that you are self-driven and self-motivated. You You are your own biggest source of motivation and inspiration. And I mean it when I say, one of the harshest lessons that you learn as you become an adult, ugh, I hate that word, is most people are not going to hand you things. They will absolutely support you if you guys have aligned interests. But you have to be willing to get out there and chase after the things that you want. You have to complete tasks actively, not passively. You have to be willing to seek out opportunities, and you need to have a firm idea of what you want to achieve. Because if you know that what you want to do, then that means that you will be able to, you'll have a firmer idea of what you need to do to achieve it. Rather than just saying, I don't know what the next step is, you could say, for example, as a voice actor, I want to get better at voicing protagonist type roles. Okay, well now I can look for workshops or shows or samples that have that type of role that I can study and research. I now know what I can do next. What it doesn't mean is refusing outside help. Being independent does not mean doing everything by yourself. It doesn't mean learning only from yourself. If I referenced only my own performances for my career, I probably wouldn't book new gigs. And I'll give an example when we at some point in this conversation. Don't require things to be done your way. It's a collaborative process. If you are an artist, you're working with a commissioner. If you're a fursuit maker, you're working with the person who commissioned you. As a voice actor, I'm going to work with all sorts of clients. No matter what career you're in, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, make some collaborations, make some accommodations. And don't ignore your privilege or advantages. That doesn't mean you should feel guilty if you happen to have a leg up, if you happen to have a good savings, if it's easier for you to afford things, if it's easier for you to upgrade your studio because of, what you've had in life. You don't need to feel guilty about that, but do not lose sight of who helped you get there and how easy it might have been for you compared to other people. And in fact, use that as inspiration to help those who are less fortunate than yourself, because trust me, people notice that, and it goes a long way. So putting it into practice, H.I.R.E, as some of you may have known, is an artist that was relatively popular a couple years ago for drawing a lot of art focused around a certain topic. That's all I'm going to get into about that, because I don't know what the rating of this panel is. But a lot of people were like, H.I.R.E, your art is so good. Why are you wasting it on this theme? Why don't you do other stuff instead? Why are you limiting yourself as an artist? And to my knowledge, H.I.R.E never really let that get to them. They didn't like stop themselves from drawing that topic. They didn't like cater to the people who said you should stop. They recognized that it was something they enjoyed doing and that they were good at. And them doing it wasn't harming anybody else, so they just kept doing it. And they built a really solid following off of that. And so when they decided to move into other things, into merchandising, into different topics, the fan base that respected them for sticking to their morals moved with them. And that's how they built a big clientele. They respect their own identity. They're very proud of who they are. For Pride Month, they created this little avatar to represent their identity. They're pursuing merch ideas. Again, very tiny. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was going to be so small. But that's basically 3 different tweets where they were like, I really want to do this. I want to produce merchandise of this. I'm going to do research and start doing it. And now it's out there. You can buy like stuff of the evolutions. You can buy all this different, this plush pillow merchandise. They just went out and did it. For myself, I can't spend a whole lot of time talking about this because I want to make sure we get enough time. When the pandemic first started, for a whole month, voice actors had basically no work because a lot of clients were waiting for us to just come back into the studio. And then when that became obvious that it wasn't going to happen, they wanted us to record from home. But most of us didn't have setups capable of producing broadcast quality recordings. To modify my room in order to record, and for your notifications, can I go back far enough? No. For your notification, all of ReZero Season 2, all of Subaru Natsuki in Season 2 was recorded from home. All of it. But in order to get my studio to a point where I could record from home, I had to drop about $3,500 to $5,000 between microphone, acoustic foam, everything else, before I could reduce sound enough that it would be considered good for broadcast. Did I have to do it? No. I could have waited until things were safe to go back into the studio. But I had to make the choice that my career was valuable enough to me to make that kind of expense. And I will tell you, it almost instantly paid off for itself. I cannot overestimate how valuable making those adjustments was, because I was one of the earliest people ready to record from home And it meant a lot of clients deferred to me because I was available. For freelance clients, I have to handle emails nonstop. Right before I came in to prepare for this panel, I took care of 4 separate gigs. I could have waited until afterwards, but I said, you know what? My voice might be worn out by the time I'm done with this panel. I'm going to take care of it now so I don't have to think about it later. A funny thing, Aquarium of the Pacific, I don't know, for those of you who follow Twitter, recently I went to the Aquarium of the Pacific and I fell in love with this little safety video that had a bunch of puppets that were also voiced. And I got to interact with the dude who voiced the puppet on Twitter. And I said, you know what? I want to do this. So I DM'd Aquarium of the Pacific and I said, listen, I know you may not be looking for anyone right now, but if you are, or if there's someone I can get in contact with, I would love to submit my stuff for consideration for when you do future volunteer work. Even if you can't pay me, I would love to give back to the aquarium, and maybe we can do it as like a donation in kind. Have they followed up? Not yet. I don't know if anything is going to happen, but it's just the idea that I was inspired and willing to take that action, take that first step to reach out and say, hey, if there's ever an opportunity for us to collaborate, I'd like to know who to talk to because I think this could be pretty cool. And if nothing happens, oh well. If something does happen, sweetness. Taking another sip. Everyone stretch. Like, raise your arms above your head. Do a couple rotations. All right. Yeah, that's right. Do a twirl. All right, sit back down. You're distracting me. Responsible. What it means? Being responsible means that you reflect and learn from your experiences. You use the past to prepare for the future. You're communicative and transparent. What I typically mean by that is just be honest about how you're doing. If you're feeling under the weather and you have an obligation, talk to your clients, talk to your commissioners. Oh, that was the first question. Here's where you get to practice raising your hands. How many of you have ever commissioned an artist or a fursuit maker and they said, I'll have updates for you by X date, and then you don't hear back from them for 6 months? How many? Show of hands, show of emotes. Anybody? Yeah, we've all been there. No one likes being that. And I'm sure most of you in that case, even if the artist had said, hey, things got delayed, a lot of stuff happened, real life is hitting hard, I don't know when I can get this back to you, but I'm going to keep you updated. I'm sure most of us would be fine with waiting a month, 2 months, 6 months, as long as it didn't feel like we were being given the silent treatment. That's what I mean about being communicative and transparent. Let people know what's going on. Organize your time reasonably. As I mentioned, getting those jobs done before this panel. Self-care. I know you guys could do better about it. I don't know any of you, or most of you in person, but I think I speak for all of us when I say, you deserve more than you're giving yourself. What it doesn't mean. Don't command control. You're not the only person in the room. There's a lot of people helping make this happen. I'm very thankful to the staff at Furality for helping make all this run. Like, I may be 10% of this panel right now. You don't have to say yes to everything. You may have morals that you have to stand for. There may be things where you have to put a foot down and say, this is not what I value. Don't prioritize everyone's needs every single time. It's a little bit of give and take. And don't sacrifice things in order to avoid conflict at any cost. What I mean by that is, sometimes you're going to have to make hard choices. And it's going to be a lot easier to make those choices if you ask yourself, what's important to me and what level of risk am I willing to take in order to stand up for what's important to me? So good examples. Mostly we're going to focus on the business side. Cinnamon Spots, who previously was known as Now and Later. I know you guys are going to flood the emotes. How many of you have ever seen or used a sticker on Telegram that was made by Cinnamon Spots or Now and Later? If you have ever used one, I expect to see those emotes. I see the nods. There we go. There we go. I don't think it's even possible to use Furry Telegram without seeing a sticker by Cinnamon Spots. And here's the reason why. In all the times that I've hired Cinnamon Spots to produce stickers for me, every single time that I worked with them, they were clear and concise about what date I would get what progress on my commission. And never once did they ever miss a single one of those dates. I don't think there was ever a case where they had it ready before that date, but lo and behold, if they said by June 12th, on June 12th at some point, I got an email with that work that I was promised. They were communicative about it, they met their deadlines, and that is honestly the easiest. If you are someone who meets the deadlines that you set, you have no idea how high that puts you above most other people. Oh, what happened here? We're going to just go all the way back there. Don't worry about that. We're fine. So, that's all I can say. Just go to their Trello, go check out their work, go see how organized they are, and then do that for yourself. On my own Google Calendar, I have a constant schedule of what time all of my sessions are. I have pinned emails anytime that I confirm those bookings so that I know what's going to happen when. And if I am going to be late for something, if I need a little extra time, I will do my best to let people know ahead of time. I'll say, hey, I should have this for you Wednesday, but just in case, is it all right if I get it into you by Friday? And in most cases, my reputation with my clients is high enough that they go, oh, absolutely. We weren't even expecting this until next week. Take the time that you need. And that's where the give and take happens. One of the freedoms that I have as a result of my career, and I imagine a lot of freelancers, artists, and fursuit makers have, is I can choose to take time off. I don't usually give myself time off because suffering is in the nature of the craft, but I am able to take more time off than most people who work a 9-to-5 job. But often what I will do is I will I wouldn't say overwork myself, but I will do more than is expected of me and make schedules easier for everyone else. So that if I want to take time off, perchance to take an entire week off to play nothing but Crystal Chronicles because I'm an addict, I can email them a month in advance and say, hey, I'm not going to be around during these days. So if there's anything that you need me to do, please try and get it to me before then so that I can get it done for you before I take that time off. And they've been super accommodating. So that's what being responsible means. Not only being driven, but taking the actions necessary to make sure you don't end up drowning in work because everything's up to date. We're doing pretty good for time. I'm actually quite proud of myself. All right, what is exemplary? The final part of H.I.R.E. Being exemplary means committing to your ideas and your choices. Figuring out what's important to you and then taking actions that align with that. Challenging your existing limitations. This is what I call going lateral to your skill set. If there is something where your skills can be related to something that you're not quite experienced with, be willing to try it out. For example, doing these panels for Furality is what introduced me to VR chat. Yeah, I don't have a VR headset yet, but I am willing to consider looking into it for future events so that I can be more expressive going into future panels. Set the standard that you want to see. Going back to what I said about being responsible, if you expect, transparency and good communication from people that you commission, make sure that you show that same respect and transparency when people commission you or whoever you happen to work with. And embrace and utilize your strengths. It doesn't mean overextending yourself and causing yourself harm because you want to go above and beyond all the time. It doesn't mean seeing everyone else as competition. If I viewed my colleagues in voiceover as my rivals, as people that I need to beat to get roles that they're also trying out for, I would not be doing well. It is all about collaboration, and I'm telling you, the more bridges that you build in this community, rather than bridges that you sabotage so that yours looks better or is used more often. If you build more bridges, you are going to get more people in general, and trust me on that. Letting perfectionism rule. It doesn't have to always be perfect. You just have to focus on doing the best job that you can do. You don't have to plan every single detail. To steal a quote from Will Smith, who stole this from something else, if we consider our careers as brick walls, you don't want to go out saying, I'm going to steal bricks from other people's walls to make mine bigger. All you need to do is look at every opportunity that you're given in life, every job that you have, every chance that you're given, every new connection that you can make, and you tell yourself, I'm going to lay this brick as neatly and perfectly as I can, to the best of my ability. And then I'm going to take the next brick, and I'm going to do the same with that. And I'm going to take the next brick, and I'm going to do the same with that. And through setting each brick as well as you can, when you finally take a step back and look at the wall, it's going to be made out of all these carefully placed bricks that you gave your time and attention and passion to. That is what's going to make the difference. So putting it into practice. If you've heard of mic to microphone or mic feedback, or even Super Nintendo, by all means, go ahead and give some emotes there. Mike pretty much is a full-time streamer. He also wants to do voice acting, but this man streams so consistently, and he dedicates himself to everything that he streams. I don't know if you guys can make it out real clear from on the upper left here, but those are all his preview banners for the streams that he held for Super Mario 64, for Psychonauts, for Metal Gear Solid. And he will straight up have a custom banner, custom overlay made for every single game that he plays. It is not the same thing twice, no matter what he does. He incorporates his VO skills. You know, he'll do funny little bits as the character. He'll voice lines in the games that he plays. He values his production quality. His stream is an experience. And it's something that I refer to everyone and say, like, hey, if you want to get into streaming, if you want to see what builds a community, what builds a server, what builds, you know, genuine hype and interest in your content, Mike is the guy who gets it. He understands what it means to put on a performance. For myself, I gotta remember my own word. Being exemplary. A lot of my work comes from being the go-to. I'm not gonna name names because I don't want, you know, it to reflect badly in any company, but there was legit a job I got to do recently where the only reason that I got hired was because the engineer was listening to the client say, you know, we don't have enough people for these backgrounds. They didn't give us, you know, they didn't tell us how many background characters we'd have to voice. And the engineer goes, just get Sean to do it. Because I already know he can do like a crap load of different voices. He can make them all sound different. And they went, okay. And so that's how I got to work on that project. Was because they just had me fill in all of these background characters that needed different voices that they were struggling to find 2 or 3 people for. And instead they just got one. And I got a paycheck. And it was nice. Ridiculous auditions. I can't go into this story. This will be one of those stories that I can do after the panel if you guys want to ask me about it. But there are times where I got a gig by doing an audition that was so not what the client expected that they felt compelled to use it just because they wanted to use it. They were like, we can't not use this. But I will say this, the most expensive callback of my career, Breath of the Wild, was the most expensive callback I ever did. Because when I got the callback it was still codenamed, but by then I had a very good idea of what it was for. When I got the callback, I was in the middle of a 2-week vacation to see my then girlfriend, now wife. And it was one of the only times, I think one of 2 times, that I would get to visit her that entire year. They said, well, it's okay. If you can't come in person, we can have you do a remote callback audition. We'll just have you set up your laptop. But I knew at this point what I thought it was going to be. And I went, if it's what I think it is, I do not want a remote audition, whatever the internet quality, whatever the quality through Skype sounds like. I don't want any of that to harm my chances of possibly booking this gig. So I cut my one chance 2-week vacation with a person that I loved short by an entire week, spent $378 on a plane ticket to fly back the next day so that I could show up to the in-person callback the day after that. And my girlfriend at the time said, if you're going to do this, you better book this, because if you don't book it, I'm breaking up with you for doing this to me. She wasn't serious, but she was probably serious. But I did book that, and now we're married. So that is one of my examples of, you know, if there's a moment in your career or your skill set where you can make a choice to pursue something that is out of the way because it's important to you, be willing to do that. Making that extra step, going that extra mile, can mean all the difference. Malleable. Going into me of H.I.R.E. Being malleable means that you consider new ideas or methods. You're willing to accept redirection. If what you have works but isn't quite what they want you to do. Incorporating inspiration from others. I know I brought that up before. Using the past to prepare for the future. It doesn't mean that you're always jumping between different jobs, that you do like 20% of one gig and then move on to something else, you know, finishing 50% of an art piece and then going, I'm not feeling it, I'm going to go to this instead. I call it ADHD brain, and I can say that because I definitely have had ADHD if I don't still have it. Where you're trying to decide what to do, and instead you just do like 10% of 5 different things. Don't do that. Commit. Don't compromise your morals. I keep going back to saying be willing to stand for what's important to you. If there's something that you refuse to do, like, I don't want to work for racists, and then you have someone who comes up and says, I have a lot of money, and also I hate people of color. I would really implore you to be willing to take a stand and say, I don't care how much money you have. I'm not going to compromise what my values are in order to make that money. Don't undervalue yourself, though. Do not, as a creative, harm your own self-worth and harm your value in order to cater to a client. If you say, my prices are $100 for blank, and someone says, I really, really, really want to hire you, but I don't want to spend that much, can you do it for $30? You have to decide if you are willing to reprice your work at $30 in order to make them happy, because that will establish a track record over time. You have to know your worth. And don't base your worth on public reply. Going back to what H.I.R.E said, if people said, why would you spend so much quality on a theme like this? You could be doing so much better stuff. Well, maybe H.I.R.E wanted to draw stuff of that quality in that theme and give more value to that theme. So be willing to try different stuff, but don't sell yourself short just to make other people happy. Putting into practice. Truly a Vaporeon. Oh my god, is she talented. You can see from the corner, she does Vap Comics, which is hilarious. She does Taxi Cat, she's done real-life studies, she's done larger portraits. She draws with all sorts of mediums. There was a Twitch stream she did where she painted using soup. I am not kidding. You can find the VOD. She drew Ho-Oh from Pokemon using nothing but green pea soup, tomato soup, black bean soup, and according to her, it smelled awful, but it was great. She works off of fan suggestions. She streams to engage with the community. Even though she's very dead set in the things that she works on, she's willing to try all this different stuff because it's entertaining to her. It helps her explore color theory, it helps her explore the medium that she loves so much, and it's entertaining to the people who watch her. For myself, like I said, I'm malleable. Part of why I got that job was because I was able to voice all these background characters. There is a quote that's often said that says, good actors borrow, great actors steal. One of the roles I didn't mention before, and I'm going to take a swig before I bring this up, was
Noob Saibot from Mortal Kombat 11.
And most people were like, how the hell did you book Noob Saibot? Did you impersonate Dr. Claw? Like, were you impersonating Frank Welker? And the answer is no. It's much sillier than that. I just really, really missed Black Doom from a little GameCube game called Shadow the Hedgehog in the year 2006 of our Lord. And so I just wanted to say, hey, I don't think it's enough for Black Doom to only show up in one game. I'm going to do him, I'm going to impersonate him as one of my audition choices. And that's what I booked. So thank you, Shadow the Hedgehog. Your running and gunning helped me get a new role and helped me become part of an established franchise. There's also modified voices. Malleable can sometimes mean you take something that you've done in the past and you change something about it to create something new. A big example that I won't be able to do because my throat is already feeling shot. How many of you, by show of hands or by emotes, are familiar with Fatigue from Bedfellows, or Sheen from Bedfellows, both of whom I voiced? Both of those characters were modified to create new voices. For Fatigue's voice, which I can't do because I'm sore right now, I took his high pitch, his very, very high pitch, I removed the British, so I made him an American accent, and I made him very staccato, almost doll-like. And that's how Fatigue became Monotaro from Danganronpa V3.
Sheen, however, Sheen is very angry. He's always shouting all the time, he's aggressive, he's mad, and said, what if I took that anger and I made it bitterness instead? What if instead of him making him outwardly angry at everybody else, I just made him upset with himself?
And that's how Sheen became Teba. That's right, Bedfellows specifically led to the creation of Teba's voice. And it was that voice that Nintendo approved from the very beginning. And finally, empathic. What does being empathic or empathetic means? I looked it up. Apparently, they're the same thing. You can use either word, but I'm going to use empathic because it sounds fancier. All right. Empathic means understanding your client's needs. I'm going to speak specifically to fursuit makers and artists for this. Remember, when someone commissions you, especially if you are a fursuit maker, they are trusting you with a often very, very expensive representation of their character. I'm sure anyone in this audience that has ever considered commissioning a suit or did commission a suit knows what I'm talking about when I'm saying waiting for the works in progress of that is the scariest goddamn thing you've ever experienced. Because you're about to drop anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars on a representation of a character that's very important to you. And you want it to feel right. You're scared that you're going to look at this and it's not going to look anything like what you hoped, but you're going to be too scared to tell the artist this doesn't make me feel the way I wanted it to make me feel, and you're just going to have to sit there and deal with it. So as the artist, as the creator, try to keep in mind the value that you have to the people who are reaching out to you. Know your role in the process. If you have knowledge and there are people out there that are scared, use your knowledge to comfort them. Combat falsehoods and inaccurate information. Recognize the impact and the influence that you have within the community, depending on whether you're experienced or whether you're doing something that most other people don't do, and use that to help lift the community as a whole. Do not permit hatred. Do not permit intolerance. Being empathic doesn't mean allowing others to destroy the livelihoods of others because you want to be inclusive. You do not have to tolerate intolerance. Do not let guilt overcome reason. Like I said previously, to not undervaluing yourself. Don't let people trying to guilt trip you get in the way of doing what's right. Don't sacrifice your worth for approval. That's, a repeat of what I said before. And don't cater to audiences excessively. It's okay to want to do something, that's important to people. Like, if there's a really popular show out and you want to capitalize on that and say, hey, I'm going to draw this for a while, I want to make, if you want an OC in this style, cool. But don't let it become everything that you do. Don't forget to do stuff for yourself. Don't forget to spend time with your friends. Your worth is just as much about your own unique life and what you've experienced than it is about what you're providing to others. I know at least half of this room knows Sailor Roo Scout at this point. I'm sure at least a couple of you have talked to Sailor Roo Scout at this point, and all of the knowledge that they have offered regarding the pandemic, about the vaccines, about COVID-19, what it does, what it doesn't do. Sailor Roo Scout has been putting themselves out there week on, week off, non-stop, just sharing everything that they can about COVID-19 and about the vaccines, to both comfort people, to help assuage their fears, to help combat, clickbait titles and media narratives that are trying to spook people. She does this non-stop and doesn't really get any benefit out of it other than just hoping that she's helping people and having people say, thank you so much. I'm so glad, I had no idea what to believe, and you've helped me put things into a proper frame of reference. She makes data easier to follow. She uses her consistency. All three of these tweets up here are just her talking about, hey, here's this new news that came out about, this new virus strain. Here's what it means. Here's what the vaccines are doing about it. And by being consistent about it, she has developed trust, reputation, and I don't want to say a customer base, but an audience that is willing to put faith and trust in what she says because she is so committed to it. For myself, I like giving back to fandoms. If I want to be invited to more events like Furality, the least that I can do is get to know you guys, interact with you, respect how you are as a community, participate in your events. Further Confusion, folks, holy crap. I have not had a single time where I've gone to Further Confusion that I have not gotten blasted off my butt at the party floor, and it is always worth it. Bless you guys. Being willing to listen as much as you speak. Hear what people are saying, hear the questions that they're asking you, don't assume what they're coming after, and then use what you know to try and give them a proper answer. And then, more specifically, understanding scripts. I'm going to do better with auditions if I try to connect with the character that I'm supposed to voice. Why do they act the way that they do? Why does Rivali dislike Link? Why is Teba so curt with everyone? Why does he seem so internalized and subtle? If I understand what their motivations are, then it helps me to give a more realistic, more believable performance. All right, water break. Everyone, drink water. It's roasting out here. I might actually be able to finish this by like 4 p.m. 4:05. If that's the case, I'm still going to cut it early just so that we're not super late. I want to make things easier for the staff. So I'll say right now, I won't do Q&A here. I will go into an instance right after this panel, and you guys can talk to me all you want. All right. So what about this, please? What is this little please thing down here? Because it was hire me, please. Well, each of these are smaller, not required, but really helpful additional qualities to have. I don't think they're essential to getting hired. I don't think they're required in order to be successful. But I find that if you follow the 3 tenets of, or 4, I should say, of please, you will have an easier time with what you do. You will not see it as work as often. And I do think it will lead to just a stronger, more reputable history overall. So what does PLS mean? What is please? It means being passionate, being legitimate, and being sharing. By passionate, I mean let your interests guide your actions. Let your enthusiasm bring authenticity to what you do. There is 2 quick examples. Back when Bedfellows was happening, I remember when the pilot for Bedfellows came out, and I said, this looks so cool. I want to see if they'll let, if they're going to cast for any other characters down the line. I'm going to find out who's in charge of this. And looking for the creator of Bedfellows is what led me to the post that said that they were casting characters for it, that they were looking for auditions. And so, of course, I sent in, and I ended up becoming Sheen and Fatigue. Winds of Change. Winds of Change is a huge one. I actually meant to mention this on Malleable. Clace, when he was making Winds of Change, originally was only going to do text. He was not planning on having any voices whatsoever. But through talking to me, and through hearing my passion for hey, it's totally cool if you don't want to do voices, but if you do, I can hook you up with folks, we can help organize this for you. He tried it out, and was so invigorated with the idea that he changed Winds of Change from being text only to fully voiced. Yesterday, and I mean literally a day ago, Winds of Change just released on Nintendo Switch. And I'd like to think that it being fully voiced helped up the production quality enough that it was willing to get picked up as an indie for Nintendo Switch. So because of a mix of malleability and passion, we now have a furry visual novel created by someone within the fandom 100%. That is now on home consoles. It is possible. But don't let professionalism replace professionalism with idolatry. There is a difference between being a passionate professional and being a fanboy. One of the projects that I am reserved about is Dust and Elysian Tale. I am super proud that I was a part of it. I'm super grateful that I got to be a part of it. But I was a part of it during a time when I was just over the moon that I got to be part of this, this game that had cute animals in it. And, I didn't care which character I played. I was just glad that I was in it at all. And that led to me not really focusing on the performance very much. And that harmed my performance. And I'll be honest, I'm embarrassed how long it took me to give line reads that were good enough to use in the game. And I'm grateful that I had that experience with a game that long ago, rather than something more modern day. And it was just an example where I was too much of a fanboy, and it got in the way of me doing a good job. Be legitimate. Be true to yourself and to your desires. Recognize your habits and adapt them. If you have a certain work process that you do, if you have a certain routine that you do, you don't necessarily have to change it, but make it work for you. Back when Smash Brothers, when Smash Brothers Online would automatically cycle you to the next match, if I was sick of editing audio, I would just fire up Smash in the background, and every time that I was waiting for the next match to begin, I'd edit audio. I'd just work on that. And then as soon as the next Smash match was going to start, I'd pause the audio, play Smash, kick the butt of the person who thought they could beat my Mega Man, and then as soon as the match was done, I'd go back to editing audio again. And that was how I mixed my desires with being a professional. But don't normalize or justify inappropriateness. Being yourself does not mean accepting behaviors that are not okay. And it also doesn't mean accepting behaviors of those you admire that are not okay. And don't downplay your accomplishments, when someone comes up and praises you and says you did such a great job at blank, it's very hard not to say thanks but, or I really appreciate that, however, just say, hey, I really appreciate that, thank you, it means a lot to me, here's why I had fun with that role. Say yes and be sharing, just like I said before. Don't make it all about yourself. Highlight the successes of your peers. I spent most of this panel talking about other people as much as I did myself. You all want to be in this together. We all want to be part of this community together. Work towards equal access opportunities for everyone. But don't use others to tailcoat your success. If someone's celebrating something that they accomplished recently, don't use that to say, hey, when you get a chance, you should try and see if you can get me included too. Let them have their moment. You will have yours too, especially if you follow, these tips and tricks. And this is something that I'll be upfront. I still deal with this. Do not let bitterness and envy about the success of others cloud your focus. Remind yourself of what you're working towards and what you have accomplished, and remember that there will always be opportunities in the future. There's stuff that you don't even know about, that hasn't even come into existence, that you might get to be involved with. So don't let others having their own moments of celebration make you become bitter or jealous that you weren't a part of it as well. Which brings me to the exclamation point. What is all this about? I couldn't tell you. But the exclamation point kind of represents just like it's something. It's something special. What I say by that, as humans, we remember our biggest highs, our highest positives, and our deepest lows. So the best way to represent the exclamation point is whenever you interact with someone, whenever you work with someone, when someone hires you, do your best to leave them feeling like something interesting happened, something special happened, something unique happened. Leave them feeling like, hey, that was really cool. I really enjoyed this. I really like this person. I support what they do. I like how we interacted. I think their content is cool. I want more of this. That is what it's represented by. If you are someone people like to work with, they will want to work with you. It's funny how that happens. You could probably think of an example of someone who gets hired because their quality is really good, but a lot of people are like, I don't think I'm going to use them again because I really didn't like how that process went. And you hear about people who get hired over and over and over again because it's painless, it's fun, and it's entertaining. And they're good at what they do. More than money, life is a constant struggle for time. So if through doing what you do best, you can save time for somebody else, you become way more valuable than you can estimate. Perfect example, like I said before. If I can spare the client having to hunt for 3 or 4 voice actors to do a bunch of roles because they can just bring me on and take care of it in a single session, chances are really good they're going to consider me. And the golden rule of freelancing, I know it's obvious, but I'm going to repeat it. Exhibit the same kindness, respect, and professionalism on others that you would expect from someone that you hire. Hire me, at the end of the day, is not about convincing people to hire you at all. It's not about trying to get work or telling people, I want you to give me work. It's about leaving people with the feeling that if they don't hire you, if they decide to ultimately go with someone else, that they'll be missing out. That's the feeling I want you to go forward with and ask yourself, what can I do? How can I improve myself? How can I conduct myself? So that when people are done working with me, or when people are thinking about working with me, they decide, you know what, I have to. Because if I don't, it's going to feel like I sacrificed something I didn't want to give up. And that's my panel. Woo! Thank you all for coming. I hope that was really entertaining. I'm really surprised that I got that done in time. I'm actually really glad that I fit that within 60 minutes. Can I go? I can't go back. Damn glitch. All right, well, no, I'm going back. I'm going back. You can't stop me, staff, before I disappear. Hold on. When I mentioned at the beginning that I accept free fan art, if you enjoyed the panel, that I was talking about this cute little dude right here. If you like what I did, draw him. Tag me. If you share parts of this panel, tag me. I want to show my support and love for you. But I'm gonna get off of here so that the staff can set up for the next panel. Keep an eye on my Twitter, twitter.com/sonicmega. I'm gonna pop into an instance, hydrate my throat, and I'll take Q&A on that general room. So, thank you all for coming. Get some stretchies, hydrate, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
Hi, welcome back. We have Sean Chiplock here. We're gonna do a quick interview.
Yeah.
So Sean,
ask me.
I got a question for you.
All right.
How do you feel about being back from Furality 2000 to Furality Luma?
So first of all, I'm always continually impressed by what the world of VR offers. Like, I will admit I'm still relatively new to the whole universe. I don't even have a headset because I don't have the space for it. But, like, when the Furality staff showed me how they had put everything together, like, the fact that we had this projector behind us, that I had little interactive crystals that let me control the slides, I have always said the variety of skill that this community, that this fandom has, is astounding. I first felt it when I went to FWA. I could tell it was there for Furality Luma. You know, I remember being at the event where they did a speed run, and we could just, like, chill in, like, a generic room in, like, seats and just watch a screen like we were watching SGDQ. It was insane. Yeah. It was so cool. So, you know, I realize how important it is to people to be able to go to events like this and to represent themselves as these characters that mean so much to them. And so I'm really happy to be back. You know, it's always cool to be told, hey, we value your contributions. We'd like you to be part of us marketing this experience to audiences. And so I just hope that I did a good job, and I'm really grateful for it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, but I absolutely loved your panel. Next question, if you don't mind. What's the differences that you've noticed between hosting a panel in VR and IRL?
So, I can definitely see that there's flexibility for VR panels as well, because as I understand, you guys have different instances. So if people think they're going to go over time, it's very easy to say, hey, we're just going to do a separate instance, and you can do as much as you want, go for as long as you want. Versus in anime convention panels and some furry panels, there's often that problem is, haha, we're having so much fun. Also, it's now 10 minutes over time. The security guards are getting very worried. The people outside are, you know, pounding on the doors. It's like Dead Rising 2 over here. Yeah. And that can be very well, it's true. It's very true, because sometimes, you know, people want to ask questions, and they have really good questions, and you can't make time for everyone. So in terms of being able to make time for people who want to follow up, the freedom that you get with VR, where you can just go to a different instance, or you can go, you know, into a completely different room, is different than when you're all in one confined space. You have to share that space with everyone else at the convention, and eventually there comes a point where you have to say, I'm sorry, but we can't keep doing this. I like that VR says, hey, if you want, here's this dedicated space that you can use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that too. Mm-hmm. I have my very own question. Well, we all know we cannot wait for AMA with Jonas Scott, Ben Diskin, and
yes!
Gillo. Yes. Are you actually excited for that?
I'm nervous as hell, because I think I'm the only one out of all four of those people who only uses desktop, who doesn't have like a headset for VR. So,
is that
you know,
true?
look.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. I think so. I'm pretty sure, because I know Jonah streams. I've seen, I saw Ben Diskin's Haida video that he did, and that was expressive. Oh, and I'm pretty sure Casey has done it as well. So all of them are going to be like, you know, making the peace sign and like making gestures and like giving hugs to people. And I'm just going to be here like, I hope my blip is cute. That's the only thing I've got. Hey, look at this totally, you know, not predetermined emote that I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna let my shining personality cover for my lack of mobility. But you know what? I'm not upset about that. I'm not upset about that, because Jonah and Ben have done so many great things for helping bring voiceover and furry together and make it more mainstream. And I mentioned earlier in the panel, you know, it's about sharing the successes of others. People already know me for past panels. They know me for Rivali. They know me for Teba. Even if this turns out to be mostly about them tomorrow, I don't care. It's their time to shine. So I'm excited for it.
I love you.
And I personally hope, this is my request to one of you, please, one of you, ask one of them to sign your butt cheek. I want to see it happen. I want to see Mr. Legoshi.
It's happening.
I want to see Mr. Legoshi Beastar. I want to see Mr. Legoshi Beastar put his neon name on someone's furry keister for them to parade around at future panels. By all means, do it.
We could make that happen.
Yeah. Well,
so.
Sean, thank you so much for this interview. It was awesome. I hope you enjoy the rest of your con, and stay awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
All
right.
Do that too.
I know. All right, guys, stay tuned to Twitter. As soon as I figure out what instance I'm in, I'm going to post about it, and I'll see you guys then. Take care, you guys.
Bye. Thank you so much.
I'm quitting the